We're going live. We are live. It's Thursday and we're live. Good morning, everyone. This is the 5am Mester Scrum Show, and I am Greg Mester. It is 6:53, and this is our 304th episode of the 5am Mester Scrum Show. And yes, it's not 5 a.m., but I was up again late last night. I attended Auckland, New Zealand Agile meeting in front of one of my connections, and it was pretty good. It was fun. It's just fun exploring the world, and I'll talk about that as we go through different shows. Not today, but later. Anyway, so I was up 2 a.m. in the morning until about 3 o'clock. Couldn't fall asleep. Tried getting up, and that wasn't happening. So it is now 6 o'clock. But here we talk about Agile and Scrum in a practical and tactical way, and I'm going to talk about a couple things today, and we try to make your life a little better at work and help you work leaner, and helps with some issues or questions you may have that come up and things that trigger in my mind about Agile and Scrum that I hear at different things. And I'll say one thing about this whole virus thing that's going on. And yesterday, I think past couple of days, so I went to a webinar in Egypt. No, Saudi Arabia. Had some people from Egypt in it. Went to one that was out of DC, one that was out of Atlanta, and I went to one that was in New Zealand. So this is pretty cool. It gives you a lot of capability, the new technology to meet. I hope more places do combinations of in-person and digital events in the future, because it's fun attending these things and seeing what everybody else is thinking. You'd be amazed how similar everybody has the same problems across the globe and the same pain points and everything related to Agile and Scrum and business and people and getting things done in general. But it's fun. I'm learning so much. Anyway, it's not great because some people are hurt. It's great from a learning perspective. Let's be clear on that one. All right, so 2 items today. Someone put a post up. It was a thought, and this gave me interesting. You put like story points versus hours, and you talk about grades, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. Like, what's the difference between an A and a 93%, or an A plus and a 93%? On your grade, and if you're a school kid, we'll talk about that, and then how that applies to Agile and Scrum, what we do, and then. Jack Reed had made a post up, and he put a post up. The first line says, Agile will help, but piss you off at first. And he attributed that quote to Gloria Steinem. And we're going to talk about that a little bit too, because I've been experiencing that a lot lately. So we're going to dive on those two items. So story points versus hours. And on this show, I'm not a big hour guy. There is ways to use hours if it's required. Hello. Franny, how are you doing? So we got a hello on our thing. One of the things about the story points hours. So what would call me? He made a cartoon. It was really good. And it was a cartoon picture from with a kid and I'm assuming his father, right? And in there, the kid says, "I got an A plus on my grade," and the father's like, "Well, what percentage is that?" It's like, but who cares? And it goes into the whole story thing. So many companies, they do story pointing and they go, okay, the team says, well, it's a 4-point to 5-point. It looks like we're it's a 5-point story, 8-point story, 3-point story, and how they do it. Some people, well, how many hours of work is that points? The question is, who cares? It's pointed, it's estimated. We kind of figured that it kind of fits with the glob kind of perspective on the board. I mean, everybody wants exact science on their points, and it's like this. Everybody everybody wants to spend all this time worried about hours, and then we all know it doesn't work. But there's some people that just want to dictate the hour thing, so they want something that's perfectly square. That meets. I'm just drawing like a puzzle piece right now for my podcast people on the whiteboard. They want something perfectly square. But a point is more like fluffy. It's got fluffiness to it. It's got the shape of hours, but it may or may not fit in there. I don't know yet because there could be some fluffy estimation going on with that. But everybody's so dependent upon, and the perfect idea with kid, the parent. I got an A. What does it matter if it was a 93 or 96%? It shouldn't matter. The A is good. We're done. We're on to the next item. That's the idea behind keeping it simple, not worrying about the estimations and moving on. We need to get more agile in the agile mindset about that particular item, and it's so important. So not we're dwelling and wasting time on stuff that doesn't really matter. Well, you got a B. We'll say you got a B. Well, was it 81% or was it an 89.9%? And you're just short of getting an A. So I got a B. Well, why come it's not an A? Or why isn't it a 90%? And once you roll up to a 90%, therefore we get an A. It's like, well, it's a B. It's okay. It's like we got plenty of time to do more stuff and do better or whatever it is. But they want to really hone in on that percentage, which really has no value, right? It's just something to think about, and they do decimal points and stuff like that. If I got all A's, I got all A's. It's good. If I got all B's, if I got all D's, then we'll talk about that. But that's another story. But don't dwell on the hours and the points and the story hours. That is just to give you an idea to make sure if you want to spend some time and estimating, but that's only after you discuss the stories in real details, right? So when we do our estimating, our point estimate, it's a broad number. It's comparison. It's relatively bigger or smaller, more complex, whatever. It could take more effort, more variables, more lines, more questions in the story compared to another one, or less, right? So we give it the points, and the points is just simple. 3 points sounds good. 4 points sounds good. So I'm gonna go, well, we equate 4 points to 6 hours or 20 hours and 15 minutes, right? And all that stuff. And it's like, that's a waste of time. Because what's going to happen when you get closer to when you do the sprint planning, right? And you take that and you kind of shape your backlog based on how many points you can do in a sprint. Then you're going to teach each story, and the technical crew is going to dissect it to real fine detail and figure out how many hours they may need to do the job, just to do a double check that they can meet the commitment of getting the work done. And that's really all it's about. It's about meeting that commitment that they provided, right? And see if there's any room for more as they maybe learn some stuff during the sprint. They could do more. So I just want to bring that up. So next time someone asks you about hours to points, give them the comparison about grades. A kid in their school getting an A, and the father wanting to know, well, was that a 90%, or was that a 95%, or was it a 98%? It doesn't matter. It's an A. We go with it, right? And if you can't take that, then you know the problem. So that's item one. The other one that we brought up was that quote, right, that Jack Reed put up on his blog post in LinkedIn from Gloria Steinem. Agile will help, but piss you off at first. And I equate that to being thin-skinned people. Thin-skinned people should not put in Agile. Can't do it. Don't do it. If you can't take a little criticism, I get criticized all the time. If I was in a meeting the other day, and I was talking about how I don't think some organization knew what they were doing, and it's kind of unacceptable, the performance getting out of the organization. All of a sudden, the manager just defended the people. I'm like, no, I'm just saying the truth, man. I'm just saying I don't think the performance that we're getting is where they really know what they're doing. I'm an amateur how to do this stuff, and I think someone could do this better job. And but then they're like, well, they're meeting on it and they're having a discussion now. I'm like, they took the whole freaking system down. At Comcast, when I worked there, they used to call that a resume generating event, an RGE. And at first I couldn't figure out what it was. Yeah, people, they just gave nicknames. RGE. It was an RGE. What the heck's an RGE? The resume generating event. It means you better go find a new job because they're about to fire, but because you just took down a system, and we got 1 million customer service calls that came in that day. And anytime we get it, because it's such a big company, service so many people, you get a couple 100,000 service calls. They're going to be looking for you. And everybody in the service department, the managers, the VPs, everybody's going to be like, we don't like getting all those calls, right? Because you got to think about it. You get 30,000 calls. That's 30,000 people that could switch their business. They're making like $200 a pop. I mean, that's millions and millions of dollars that you potentially could lose, and they can go to another business because of that. So they call it an RGE, resume generating event. But just going back to it, in a discussion, like talking about, it's really not like I work on some teams and things we're having issues with, and it's real fundamental stuff, and they don't have it, and they defend it like, well, they don't have time to do it. I'm saying, but this is fundamental stuff, right? You have to do it. It's not an agile thing, right? And so many people, when I say this is not good, they're like, so they want to fix things, but they don't want to fix things. Then you can't fix something if you can't admit that it's wrong. And what Scrum does is it just exposes all that stuff. It's like having a scab, like thin skin. You're gonna bleed or whatever. It exposes that. If you're thin skinned and you can't take, like, hey, you're not doing this, and if you can't take that feedback, and as a coach, my job is to give that feedback to you. Sorry. But at first, Agile's, if you're not used to anybody saying, well, that's not good, then you're not gonna like Agile. You're not gonna like Scrum. You're not gonna like it because it cuts things down in such small pieces. It exposes all your weaknesses. Your system's down, right? So we do a 2-week sprint or a 1-week sprint or even smaller, and you have environmental issues, right? Your environment's going down. Well, it's really going to expose and really be large, because if your environment goes down for 2 days, that's what, 10 days. So that's 20% of your uptime. 2 days is 20% in a 2-week sprint. That's huge. You lose 20% on anything, and that's huge. And can you imagine if you lost 20% of your revenue, 20% of your savings, 20% of your income with the whole virus thing? Those are big numbers, and Scrum exposes those big numbers and those failures. So and I agree, totally. I love that quote. Agile, Agile will help you, but firstly, it's gonna piss you off because it's gonna show you all the things you're not doing, right? Things you could do better, and it's just gonna piss you off. It's like, damn it, I want this better. Maybe you don't. I don't know. But it's a great quote to have. So the 2 things today, look at points and hours and why you're asking for it. If you got a B, are you asking, I got a B and I'm good? Or the B needs to be, is it 82%, 85%, 89%, 86%, 84.5%? If you're in that where you're asking the percentages, then that's getting too crazy. And the other thing is, Agile will help. But at first, there's going to be a lot of people that are not going to want to hear it. They're not going to want to hear what they've been doing for years is good. Bugs, code, environment, systems not working. The Agile exposes it because it does a smaller time box. You don't have as much time to push it underneath the carpet and fix it later before you do your release, right? So anyway, it's Thursday. I want to wish you all a great day. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. is our second interview with Edwin Wolfs. So he's a new Scrum Master. In fact, he was doing the thing in Oakland and New Zealand. So that's why I wanted to go there to support him and his activities. And we're going to have the interview, and we're getting some more people to do some more interviews. So hopefully they'll come out too. So with that, hey, thumbs up. Have a great day. Hope you're healthy. Again, stretch before you do any activity if you've been sitting around with the coronavirus for too long like me, or otherwise you'd be in pain, especially when you get older. Takes a little bit more time for your body to mend itself, and you have a good time. All right, bye. See ya. Happy scrumming. See ya. Take care. Bye.